2024 has been a great year for watch releases, and in today's video I'm going to talk about my favorites over the last 12 months. Now before we get started, I just want to say Happy New Year to you and yours. I hope you're happy, healthy, and prosperous. Now let's talk about my favorite watch releases of the year. We're going to start with Zenith, and there are two different models that I wanted to highlight. One of them is the honorable mention. That's the Chronomaster Sport in green. I really like this model. A couple of years ago, Zenith released actually a limited edition, Aaron Rodgers limited edition to be specific, and that watch was very popular. Now, for this year, they have added this green version to the standard catalog, which I really like. However, it wasn't sort of my favorite release from Zenith. That honor goes to Zenith Chronomaster Triple Date Calendar with the moon face. There's a lot that I really like about this watch. First of all, the design, they have really nailed it. It's hard to do a triple date calendar that doesn't look overly busy, especially when you also have a chronograph complication on top of that and a moon phase complication. I think here the execution is really good. The only thing that I'm not so crazy about is that date window at the 4:30 o'clock position, but I think the design is so attractive that I will excuse that portion of the design. Other than that, the watch is great. It has great dimensions, 38mm diameter by about 13mm in case height. It's powered by an excellent El Primero 3610 automatic movement. Zenith is known for their movements, especially their El Primero caliber movements. There's a lot to like about this watch, and I think the price is pretty reasonable for the package you get. Initially, these watches were kind of hard to get and they were sold out, and there was a bit of a waiting list. Now, fast forward to the end of the year, because this watch actually came out at the very early stages of the year. These watches are readily available, and I've seen some pop up on the secondary market, on the gray market at a slight discount. The original MSRP is about 12,900 Swiss francs on the leather strap, or about 13,400 Swiss francs on the stainless steel bracelet, which I think for this caliber of the watch is pretty reasonable. Next up, let's talk about Tissot, and there are actually a couple of models that I want to highlight from this brand as well. The honorable mention goes to Tissot PR516. That's the mechanical chronograph. I think Tissot has been releasing some really attractive watches lately, and this chronograph is no exception. First of all, the design of this watch is very attractive. It is very vintage inspired, and as soon as this watch was released, it was pretty much an instant hit. It hit a chord with watch collectors and general public alike. But this one just gets an honorable mention. My pick for the best watch that Tissot released this year goes to the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80 in a forged carbon case with a forged carbon dial. A few years ago, when Tissot released the PRX line of watches, they kind of struck gold with this model line. I know so many people that own these watches. I see them out in the wild all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if it's their most sold model over the past probably decades. Well, now they added this new forged carbon version, and I myself was tempted to add one to my collection. I am not tempted by too many watches just because I review so many of them and I keep on talking about watches every day. It's too much. But even this one was kind of tempting to me. I think the sizing is great, 40.5mm diameter by about 11.2mm in case thickness. These ones are powered by the Powermatic 80 with 80 hours of power reserve. It's a great movement. This watch also comes with 100 meters of water resistance. It is super lightweight. It comes with this integrated rubber strap. The coloring is very attractive. There's really a lot to love about this model. It also makes these sort of forged carbon cases more affordable, more available to the general public. Because even a few short years ago, if you wanted a carbon case watch, you had to spend like $10,000 plus. Now, with these models, you can get one for around $1,000 or so, which is super impressive. Next up, let's talk about Tudor, and again, there are a couple of models that I wanted to highlight. First of all, the honorable mention, that goes to the Black Bay Monochrome Diver. I think Tudor did so many right things with this watch. First of all, the case, the design, the dimensions, all of that is executed really well. A diver on a Jubilee bracelet also looks really sharp. There's just a lot to like about this watch, but there was a different Tudor released this year that I liked even more. I'm talking about the Tudor Black Bay 58 GMT, also known as the Coke. For so many years, we have been speculating about Tudor or even Rolex, the bigger brother, releasing the GMT Coke, the black and the red bezel combination on the watch, on the GMT watch. A lot of watch collectors are craving these watches because ever since it was sort of discontinued back in the day, people really want them. We always want what we can't have. And ever since Tudor released a Black Bay 58 model in a smaller 39mm diameter, that's the diver of course, we have been craving a GMT watch in that case with the Coke bezel combination. And guess what? This year, that's exactly what they gave us. The dimensions of this watch are great, 39mm diameter by about 12.8mm in case height. The case height is excellent in these watches. The previous GMT models from Tudor suffered from being a little bit too thick for some people. Now they have really addressed the problem. The movement powering this watch is also great, is the caliber MT5450-U. It comes with 65 hours of power reserve and it's a high beat movement. This watch still comes with 200 meters of water resistance, and to this day this watch is still pretty difficult to get. If you go to the AD or if you go to the boutique, you're probably going to be placed on a waiting list. A lot of hype still happening behind this model, and I can see why, and I think the price is also pretty reasonable, about 4,500 euro or so. So a really good release from Tudor this year. Next, let's talk about Citizen. They actually had a couple of models that really stood out to me. First, the honorable mention. Let's talk about the Series 8 Diver. I think this watch is excellent. They did so many right things with this watch. The design is very attractive. Sometimes Citizen can be a bit hit or miss with their designs. The price point is great, around $1,500 or so, which I think is right where this watch should be. But it's not getting the vote for my favorite watch of the year. There's actually a different Citizen model that I liked more. I'm talking about the Citizen Super Titanium Eco Drive Day Date. Ever since Citizen released these Tsuyosa automatic watches, they have been very popular with a lot of watch collectors, although that sort of cyclops for the date window and also the shiny dials didn't really appeal to everyone. This year for 2024 they have released very attractive variation of this watch with the integrated bracelet design with a few different color combinations and a day-date complication. I think these watches right here look excellent. The dimensions are great, 39.5mm diameter, they're about 9.8mm in case height. They come with 100 meters of water resistance, so they're great everyday type watches. And the stars of the show here are actually these dials. I really like that grainy finish. It kind of looks like a frozen lake or something like that. A lot of people are calling these as sort of baby Grand Seikos, and I can definitely see why. The best part about these watches is of course the price point. You can get them for around $350 or so, which I think is a very reasonable price point for a watch like this, especially in a titanium case and with these attractive looks. So really, really well done from Citizen. Next, let's talk about Omega. They're actually my favorite watch brand, and this year they had quite a few great releases. They of course had the wide dial moon watch. That watch was a great hit and it is one of my honorable mentions. They also had the new Seamaster collection, I'm gonna call it, some in titanium cases, some in the stainless steel cases, the monochrome look, the green bezel look with the green dial look, the black on black. All three versions look really good. I'm actually gonna do a review of one very soon, so subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss that video when it does come out. But that's actually not my pick for my favorite release from Omega. That honor goes to the Speedmaster first Omega in space. I think Omega took so many right steps with this model. They shrunk it to a smaller size. This one comes in just under 40 millimeters. It's also not overly thick, about 13.5 millimeters in case height. The shade of blue chosen here is very attractive. The case design itself is very attractive. Some people are a bit hit or miss on that faux patina look on the dial. I actually don't mind it on this watch. I think it looks great. I like the flat link bracelet. I also really like the fact that they chose the caliber 3861 for this movement instead of the 321 caliber, which would make this watch a lot more expensive. And thus they kept the price pretty low in my opinion. I mean, of course, prices and values are all subjective, but I think about $8,000 for this watch on a bracelet is a very reasonable price. It's actually less than how much the Sapphire Sandwich Speedy costs. So I think they did a fantastic job with this watch, and from my understanding there's still a waiting list for these models, and I think Omega is going to do really well and they're going to sell a ton of these watches because they're just really, really good. Next, let's talk about a brand that doesn't get enough love and attention from the watch industry. I'm talking about Panay, and more specifically their perpetual calendar GMT. This model kind of flew under the radar, but I think Panay did a fantastic job with this watch. First of all, the looks of it are very attractive. It is very bare bones Panay through and through. It comes in that radio mirrored case. Now this one is of course made out of precious metal. It's an 18 karat gold. Features a 45mm diameter and 100 meters of water resistance. Now what's cool about these watches is the fact that they feature a perpetual calendar, as the name would suggest. They also feature a second time zone, which is also a very useful complication. These ones are powered by the new caliber P4001. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour and has 55 hours of power reserve. I also really like how they integrated this caliber into the case and how they designed it. I like the fact that it has sort of the year at the back of the case, and at the front it just shows you the AM PM indicator on the dial, the day and date. That's it. And if you want to see the month, or if you want to see if it's a leap year or not, you can look at the case back. And of course, the back of this movement is also gorgeous. It features a micro rotor. There's a lot to like about this watch, and I feel like Panay didn't get enough attention for this release. But the price is also fairly reasonable-ish, $46,500 US for this type of movement in a huge gold case. I think it's not bad. So well done, Panay. Next up, let's talk about another watch brand that doesn't get enough love, IWC. This year they had a few pretty good releases. Everyone is talking about the Portugueser Eternal Calendar, and that's actually my honorable mention. I think that watch is fantastic. The type of technology that goes into creating something like that is just mind-boggling. This watch doesn't have to be adjusted until the year 3999. That is just crazy. Why would you need that? But that's the whole point of these watches, right? Why would you need a perpetual calendar? You don't, but you want one because you can have one. And that's exactly why they made this watch. Now, the reason why it didn't make it to sort of my favorite release of the year is because of the price point, 150,000 Swiss francs. Yeah, that's a bit out of most people's budgets. It's just sort of insane piece of art, piece of technology to be put on pedestal. But IWC actually had a different release this year. Their annual calendar lineup, that's actually my pick for my favorite watch line / model of this year, that doesn't get as much attention as this Eternal calendar, but offers a lot of the same things that this watch offers for a much lower price. So this perpetual calendar line of watches comes in the same case diameter. It's about 44.5mm in diameter by about almost 15mm in case height, 14.9 to be exact. Now, where the Eternal calendar featured a platinum case, these watches come in either yellow gold or white gold cases, still not stainless steel, so you still get a precious metal case. And the difference between this watch and the Eternal calendar is the fact that this watch has to be adjusted in the year 2100. That's kind of the big difference between the two. So this one, of course, features a lot less technology. But I think you can kind of sacrifice that and look past it. Yeah, sure, you have to adjust it once in 75 years from now. That's pretty much it. But other than that, the two watches are very, very similar. Even the dial layouts are very similar. The complication is very similar. The movement is very similar, except for the Eternal calendar is much more complicated because it doesn't have to be adjusted until the year pretty much 4000. So, another 2000 years on top of this one. But other than that, if you can look past the fact that you have to adjust it in the next 75 years, you'll be saving about 100,000 euro, because these watches cost about $46,500 in the yellow gold case and about $47,500 in a white gold case. And I think at that price point, even though it's not exactly a bargain, if you compare it to the Eternal calendar, yeah, it's a pretty good hit. Next, let's talk about another watch brand that doesn't get too much love lately from the watch collecting community. We're going to talk about TAG Heuer to close off this sort of trio of watch brands that get underappreciated. And for this year's favorite release from the brand, I'm going to talk about the TAG Heuer Carrera chronograph, the Skipper. With the release of their glass block design on a Carrera case, I think TAG Heuer has been onto something, and this watch right here is very attractive. First of all, the case Very reasonable, 39mm case diameter by about 13.9mm in case height. Now these are automatic chronograph movements, that's why the cases are a bit on the thicker side, but a lot of that case height actually comes from the crystal itself. On the wrist, these watches do wear quite nicely. Speaking of the caliber, these ones are powered by the caliber TH20-01. It's an in-house automatic chronograph movement that has 80 hours of power reserve. These movements are pretty great. The favorite part about this watch is the design of it. I think the color combination looks really sharp. It makes you want to go on an adventure and makes you want to go sailing and buy a yacht and all these type of things. And I think at the price point, it's somewhat reasonable, $6,720 USD for this model. So hey, you might be able to buy this watch and still have money left over for a yacht. Moving on to Maurice Lacroix, and they actually had a few different releases this year. And my favorite model from them this year was their Icons ceramic case on the ceramic bracelet model. I think this model offers so much value for a fairly reasonable price. So first of all, it comes in a 42mm case diameter. That's the black version. That's the version that I like. If you have a bit of a smaller wrist and you like white watches, there's also the white ceramic version available. Unfortunately, I prefer this black one. And why do I say unfortunately? Because it is the larger case model, 42mm in diameter. So you do have to have a bit of a larger wrist because these integrated bracelet watches tend to wear larger. This watch is powered by a Celita-based automatic movement, so you do get an automatic movement, although it's nothing too impressive here, but the price is very reasonable, $3,300 USD, which is kind of a great deal if you think about it. You get a fully ceramic case with a ceramic bracelet for $3,300 USD. You used to have to pay tens of thousands of dollars for ceramic cased watch. And now they're becoming more and more affordable thanks to companies like Maurice Lacroix. Next, let's talk about Timx, and they had a few pretty good releases this year. My favorite is this Timx Q chronograph with the Snoopy on a dial. Of course, the damn Snoopy, this damn cartoon dog that some people seem to really like, myself included. And if you want the Snoopy on a chronograph, you can't go wrong at about $250, $240 USD. Outside of having the cartoon dog on your dial, the watch itself actually looks pretty attractive. I like the panda dial layout. I like the fact that it has a tachymeter scale done in black. I like this 1970s case. By the way, the size of it is very reasonable, 40mm. There's just a lot to like about this watch, and it's not surprising that this one is actually currently sold out, and it will come back in stock, but right now they are available at a higher price. People are trying to resell them. Of course, don't pay these gray market prices. Just wait a little bit if you are interested in this watch, and you will be able to pick one up. So it's not surprising to me that this has been a pretty big hit with the watch collecting community. Lastly, I want to talk about a few watches that I have reviewed this year that really stood out to me. First, I want to talk about the Nomos Club Campus 38mm in the Non-Stop Red and the Endless Blue. I think these watches are fantastic. Nomos is one of these watch brands that offers so much value, in my opinion, for a pretty affordable price. They're ultra slim, 100 meters of water resistance, go anywhere, do anything type of a watch. The dials really stand out. They're striking, beautiful. If you get one with the display case back, you can admire their in-house movements, which are gorgeous, and all of that for around $1,500 USD. Come on, that's just fantastic. I don't know why Nomos is not more popular in a watch collecting community, because they are really offering some fantastic watches. Another watch that really stood out to me is from Baltic, their Prismic Stone Dials collection. This year I reviewed quite a few different Baltic watches, but this one specifically stood out to me. I haven't seen a green jade dial on a watch before, and I think it looks really, really good. This dial alone is worth the price of admission. Now, these watches are not exactly cheap. They're also around $1,500 USD, and the green one currently is sold out. But if you are interested, I'm sure you can probably join some sort of waiting list, and hopefully they do come back in stock. I really liked it. I think Baltic did a great job with this year's releases, specifically this model. Another watch company whose watches I reviewed quite a bit this year is Venezianico. They had a few very interesting, unique watches. My favorite, the watch that really stood out to me, is the Arsenale 40. I reviewed the Ultra Black edition. I really like how that watch looks. It looks very interesting with a sort of ghost-like dial without any indexes, just their logo. But I also really like some of the other dials, like the blue dial version. Looks very, very sharp. That's probably my favorite out of all of them. So there is a lot to like about this line of watches, and I'm excited to see what else Venezianico comes up with in the future. Lastly, one of my favorite watch brands is Zelos, and this is the review that I just finished doing. The Aurora Field Watch in a bronze case with the green aventurine dial. I think they did such a great job with this watch, around $430. It offers so much value. Zelos just continues to impress me with how much punch they pack in such an affordable package. And that's pretty much it for this video. These are the watches that I wanted to highlight as my favorite releases of the year. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what were some of your favorite watch releases this year. I always enjoy reading your comments. I appreciate you watching this video until the end. I appreciate watching these videos on a weekly basis. If you do watch these videos on a weekly basis, or if you're a more casual viewer, I still appreciate you. Thank you for watching these. It means a lot. So thanks. Give this one a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.